G'day Internet, Max right here, and today we're going to be going through some questions that some Success Council members had for me. Before we do that, I do want to do a brief market overview so you guys kind of know where I'm at. Technically, we are in a accumulate strategy for Bitcoin right now, but remember, for the rest of this year, I'm expecting pretty choppy sideways action. So it's not like oh my God, buy, you're going to miss it. But now is the time to be accumulating. I would say for the rest of this year, we're probably going to be in accumulation phase. Stay tuned. If things turn hairy or ugly, that might change. But these are pretty good prices to accumulate Bitcoin, dollar cost average in, or buy the dips, that kind of mentality. Okay, so now let's jump over to the questions. I haven't had a chance to read these yet, so we're just going to get through all these together. Hi Max, what is your view on Bitcoin ordinals? Are they good, bad for the evolution of Bitcoin as a monetary network? Good question. I haven't paid too much attention to ordinals. I'm very much a Bitcoin purist, not a Bitcoin maxi, but a Bitcoin purist. Like, Bitcoin is here to save the world. And I don't care if you put your ordinals on the Bitcoin network, as long as it still saves the world. So there's some advantage in that. It brings more attention to the Bitcoin blockchain, helps it proliferate faster, maybe through ordinals. There's a downside. Maybe it clogs it up the network a little bit, slows it down, makes it a little bit less user-friendly. I don't really know. I don't pay too much attention to it. I love making money, obviously, and so but actually that's not what drew me to Bitcoin. What drew me to Bitcoin was I knew it was going to save the world, and so I kind of focus more on that side than making money with Bitcoin, even though I love to make money. Hi Max, how likely do you believe that we will descend into a global recession after all that money printing and the Mexican beer 2019 thingy? That shut the global economy and supply chains and impact it will have on Bitcoin price and the halving. So I don't think any of that stuff is going to have too much effect on the Bitcoin halving. Well, it won't have any effect on the Bitcoin price halving. Has it already had effect on price? Yes. Will that change the structure of the halvings? I don't think so. Not so much. I believe we're already in a global recession. I think it's coming. I think that economists will revise the data in months and years in the future to inform us that as of this date, June 2023, that we were already in recession. If not Q3, certainly I believe it will be. So yeah, I believe the recession, the hard-hitting punches of the recession are still ahead of us. And we have that bittersweet with Bitcoin. Everyone knows that recession is bad and people need to liquidate some of their things and they need to get cash to survive. But everybody knows that the response to a recession is going to be money printing, in which case there will be a run to Bitcoin. So there'll also be front running of that. There's a lot of Bitcoiners who are like, bad economic news, recession's here, yay, let's buy Bitcoin. We know they're going to start printing. There'll be a dip first and then a very quick and strong punch back in Bitcoin. But those punches in the guts are still to come, I believe, but we are technically in a recession, I believe. What happens when the banks collapse? Are we forced to use CBDCs as a solution? If we don't have a good social credit score and aren't allowed to access our money, no cheap houses for us. One of the predictions from the WEF is that there will be a cyber attack, and as a result, the internet will become cordoned off, like in China, I believe. How could this affect Bitcoin? Any new wallet recommendations after the potential ledger update vulnerability this week? All right, a lot of good questions in there. Let's go to cyber attack. I don't believe they can cordon off the internet and restrict Bitcoin. Bitcoin is encrypted, and you don't know what the packets of information flying across the internet are when Bitcoin transactions are flying around. So China can't ban Bitcoin, by the way. So they've banned Bitcoin mining. I think they've released some of that now. But that's using men with guns in the physical world to go after miners. Bitcoin transactions you cannot ban without banning the entirety of the internet. So you can shut down the internet, yes, but you can't ban secure transactions. If you ban secure transactions, that means all banking transactions won't work. All diplomatic communications will be blocked. Like, everything gets blocked. Pretty much everything's secure now and encrypted. And so you can't block Bitcoin and only Bitcoin. You can only shut down the whole internet. Can they do that? Will they do that? Is it a fringe case possibility? Yes, I don't think it's a likely possibility, but that is possible. With regards to social credit scores and things like that, Here's what I believe is a stepping stone to where we get. Bitcoin will be the currency of the black market. And if you've ever had the good fortune to visit or the misfortune to live in a communist totalitarian place, I've had the good fortune to visit many of them. I've been to Cuba. I've been to lots of them. And so I go there to study them. And what is very, very clear is that the black market is the economy. Everyone pretends to work for 40 hours a week, and the government pretends to pay them for that, and nothing happens. It's all complete and utter bullshit. And then the entirety of the country operates on the black market. And I believe the Bitcoin, if you want anything, if you want to achieve anything, if you want to do anything, if you want any luxury of life, it will be on the black market. And so Bitcoin will be the currency of the black market. So the single greatest thing you can do to have a smither of liberty and freedom in a situation where social credit scores are a big deal and controlling the world is to have Bitcoin. And that's the greatest defense against that, or an even better defense is to not let it happen in the first place. But once it's in place, Bitcoin is your greatest defense against that, and it will be the currency of the black market. Any wallet recommendations after the potential Ledger update vulnerability this week? I don't use Ledger. I use an old school tool that is kind of, well, it's been, what's the word? It's no longer supported, and it's been around for a long time, and I don't really recommend others using it because it is a little bit of a headache and a pain in the butt. But it is the most secure thing out there, and that's what I use. But I don't necessarily recommend that to other people. So I'm not sure what a good outside solution to that is Ledger. I still think probably Ledger is probably your best solution, despite its vulnerabilities. But you can always kick to a paper wallet, and so you can do that relatively easy and just send it to a paper wallet address. So that's another solution. But if it's for actual transactions and doing things, I think Ledger is probably still your best option. So I would stick with that despite this vulnerability. This is not a request for personal investment advice. In the current market, it seems the correlation between Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, etc. is actually stronger than the general crypto volatility. So do you see any reason for a long-term investor to switch between coins currently? No, not really. And especially the first leg of any kind of boom is always Bitcoin-led. If I was to graph this for you, I think I've got to draw the graph backwards for you. But if Bitcoin goes up like this in a bull market, altcoins go up like this. They stay flatter longer and don't outperform Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden they hockey stick and catch up and surpass Bitcoin. It's typically how it goes. So in these early stages, Bitcoin is your best bet for now, and I wouldn't be bothering with alts too much at the moment. Recently, there was a Markets Pro platform presentation in one of your emails. Is this something you use yourself? I assume it's something you recommend to use. So yeah, look, I'm a huge fan of education. I'm a huge fan of, what's the word? Sharing information, A. B, letting people decide what they should do. And any kind of tool that helps you get an advantage is something that I absolutely endorse. So, people speak to me like I understand. I write emails, and everybody in every industry, you write emails as if you're speaking to a particular person. But in actual fact, you're speaking to tens of thousands of people. Those tens of thousands of people are not the same. They all have different tastes. Some people are, for them, money is no object, and they will pay anything to get, any little bit of alpha, any little bit of extra information, any little bit of whatever. And then there's and then there's some people who are like, I don't buy anything ever because I just don't have the money, but I also have lots of time and I can go and research things and spend weeks and months collating an hour's worth of material, which somebody else who's like rather wealthy, I'm just going to pay $500, $1,000, $2,000 for that information, and then I can consume it in an hour and I've got all that time back. So there's all different kinds of personalities that are subscribers of Success Council, and so I present information and opportunities and things that there's no such thing of something that will be wonderful for everybody, and there's no such thing that's terrible for everybody. It's just different, appealing to different people. So what I highly recommend is when I send you emails, go ahead and usually watch the webinars, find out about them. It's just free learning. I always try to insist that if ever I'm going to say, hey guys, go and learn about this, I say to the people that have asked me to do this, I say, you must provide valuable content first, And at the end, if you want to do a pitch, that's fine. That's what I do. If you know my whiteboard presentation, I just lay out the best strategy I can possibly find, provide a ton of value, and at the end, I say, hey, there's something here to buy if you want to further study, further information, if you want me to be your mentor. So that's what I encourage other people to do. So always go and watch the free stuff. Always go and get a heads up. Find out what's out there. It may be right for you. It may not be right for you. It may not be right for you now. It may be right for you in a couple of years. Just get the information. It's a really good thing. And then if it suits for you, I'm going to leave that in your hands as to whether or not it's good for you to do. Since we're still a year away from the Bitcoin halving, what do you expect to see happen for the next months leading up to the halving and the halving? I answered that at the top of the show. I believe typically huge run up in months after the halving, so I'm wondering what we can expect to see in the coming. So yeah, I'm very clear. My base case now is for the rest of this year, choppy sideways. Following year, a good year. Following year, 2025, a great year. Okay, stay tuned. I'll give you more accurate information at the time. But yeah, that's the deal. Telegram link in the video description says it's expired. When I tried it, is there a group? No, there is no Telegram group. The Telegram group is depleted. I should go ahead and take that out of the description. But what there is for all paid members, which if you're writing questions here, you must be, for all paid for all paid customers, you are given a free trial to our Discord. And then if you decide to keep it, it's only like $9.99 a month. But that's where you get to ask. That's where you get to get that group activity. I will put a link in the description of this video where you can go ahead and claim your free 7-day trial to the Success Council Discord group. Okay, you got a lot of questions here, G. If you were to believe the crypto market will crash, is it best to dollar cost average in, or sell everything and wait for to near at the bottom? Well, that's an if-then statement. If you were to believe the market was to crash, I mean, if you take into account tax considerations and everything else, then yes, you would say sell. But the question, no one is 100% certain it's going to crash. No one's 100% certain it's going to moon. All of these things are probabilities. And so your portfolio needs to be balanced in terms of probability. So, I think there's going to be some sharp corrections coming up here. There's going to be good buying opportunities. But I balance that against the fact that I have a very high degree of confidence that in 5-10 years, Bitcoin's going to be $1 million a coin. So could I sell everything and try and buy at the exact bottom? I could do that. But there's around a chance that it just starts mooning straight from here and we don't ever get that big dip. And now I get caught out not having any Bitcoin. So I always have Bitcoin and I always have cash. And managing your portfolio and managing your risk is a very, very personal decision. I can't advise that for people on a specific thing, but those are the things you need to consider. Is it likely that a stock market crashes in June or July? It's too specific. Like I think there's going to be a crash here in the next year or two, but calling one of these two particular months is a little bit too specific. What is your opinion on ETFs that short the markets? I'm assuming this is a philosophical question. Yeah, this is a tough one. It's certainly used for evil. I can confirm that. And maybe philosophically and in principle, you should not be able to sell something that you do not own. I believe it sows the seeds of corruption. And we see how the gold and other precious metals markets are corrupted by them selling an infinite amount of paper gold. They can just sell short, and absorb as much demand as out there. And because it's expensive to buy and store and transport precious metals, people don't really want it. Investors just want exposure to the price. So they just buy paper contracts because they're cheaper. And they can buy as much as these ETF shorts sell. But the problem is these ETFs absorb all the demand and the price never goes up. I believe Bitcoin has a killer shot in this respect because it is free to store and free to transport, or near free to transport. They can't corner the market and sell an infinite amount of paper to absorb all of the Bitcoin interest, and Bitcoin will break this corrupt practice. But so I think if I were president, I would outlaw short selling. You can only sell that which you own. There are some market efficiencies that come with naked shorting, but there's also a world of corruption that it brings in, and I don't like it generally. But I reserve the right to change my mind on that, but that's my opinion on it at the outset. So the crypto markets are going to be sideways choppy for the rest of the year, and looks like the Fed is going to continue tightening, making a crash and deflation more likely than not. We should keep cash, because if the markets crash, everything except cash crashes, right? Loosely speaking, yes, you're on the right track. And if we shouldn't keep bulk of our cash in banks and any crypto should be in our own offline wallet, where do we keep the cash? In our mattress? Is there an offline wallet for USDT? So this is where I think short-term treasury bonds are the way to go. Let me see. Where is this? Do I have it? It might be in another browser. What is it? Dang it, I can't think of the website off the top of my head, and I can't find the bookmark because it's in a different browser. Oh no, am I here? Yes, here I am. But I was just going to look. Treasury yields are about 5% right now. So short-term treasury yields. So you can buy, 1, 2, 3, 6-month treasuries for 6 months. So if you understand about the long-term treasuries are a different animal, because if you buy something for 10 years, that price fluctuates. That's what caught the banks out and caused the banking crisis, right? But short-term treasury bonds have no such risk. It's like you get the interest rate that they're offering, and as long as you can hold for the 1 month, 2 month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever your duration is, you're going to get your money back. And here's why I always hold cryptocurrency. Let's say they default on their treasury bonds and they don't pay those short-term treasuries back, right? You know what happens? The price of Bitcoin goes up 10x to 100x within 1 year. It'll be mind-blowing how big the price of Bitcoin will rise if the US Treasury defaults. It'll be crazy. So that's your insurance policy. You always have some Bitcoin, right? It's the most important thing. It is the safest in terms of long-term. In my mindset, 10 years from time, I know full well it's going to be at least 10x more than it is today, right? That's my belief. So it's very, very safe long-term, and it's a short-term hedge against any disaster. A lot of the disasters, when things happen, the price of Bitcoin will go down for a shorter period of time, and then it'll bounce back very, very strong. But if there's any large-scale systemic failure, Bitcoin treasuries, US treasuries, major bank, like one day they say JP Morgan's gone under, and everyone who's a depositor at JP Morgan gets a bail-in, their account gets chopped in half, 50%. Price of Bitcoin goes up 10x. So you use these things to hedge these scenarios, and Bitcoin is like the ultimate hedge for almost all of your black swan events. And if you've got some cash on board, when the black swan event very first hits, if you can get to Bitcoin, you'll probably get Bitcoin at a very big discount. But the more they tighten their grip and say, oh, you can't get to Bitcoin, the more the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. Because, if you have Bitcoin, you can't sell it. There's that. But there will be people who understand, they're trying to herd me into the thing that's going to make me lose all my money, and people will find a way to escape. Hi, Max. And by the way, to make 5%, I understand you're losing money against inflation with US Treasuries, but to make 5% when everything else is flat, going down, stock market's flat, going down, Bitcoin's flat, going down, all that kind of stuff, that's absolutely risk-free. It's really, really attractive. Which, there's no doubt in my mind, they are trying to herd us in there. But it's not to hurt us. It's to hurt the small and regional banks because they want to consolidate into bigger banks. So they want all the small banks to get slaughtered, which will cause a massive recession. So they are encouraging us to do it and paying us handsomely to do it. And usually I'm very, very skeptical of being herded anywhere by the matrix. But in this case, they're doing it not to hurt me, but to hurt the banks. And I sympathize with the banks, but I'm not going to sit there and lose my money in order to, be thankful, to sympathize with them and fight the system. I'm not going to get slaughtered with them. I'm just not going to do that. Hi, Max. Is the Australian real estate market the same as the USA, or is it in a worse state because we didn't have the 2008 property crash like the US did? If property prices in the US come off 50%, could Australian prices come off even more? So, Patrick, I do not believe that the Australian real estate market is worse off for having not had the 2008 crisis like everybody else did. There were very good reasons why the Australian property market did so well. Did so well because of foreign investment. Look, Sydney especially, I'm from Sydney, Melbourne, not quite so much. I might fight with a few Melbourneites on that one. Sydney is one of the absolute premier cities in the world. If you go there, it's one of the most beautiful, gorgeous, first world, amazing restaurants, just beautiful, beautiful city in the world, incredible like public education and all that kind of stuff, like private schools. So wealthy people all want their children to grow up in Sydney. There's a lot of reasons why people want to move there. Plus, it's first world, better property rights. So if you're living in somewhere in Southeast Asia, and it's the playground of Southeast Asia, right? So if you're anywhere in Southeast Asia, China, Japan, and you accrue a little bit of wealth, where do you want to vacation? Where do you want to have, and where do you want to put a little bit of your wealth? Like you want to buy some real estate where in a first world country where they kind of protect property rights. Is go and buy some real estate in Australia, and your children can go there and can go to school there. So for a whole bunch of reasons, the Australian property boom was a very, very well justified. And so I don't think that the fact that it didn't have the 2008 crash hurt it in some way. Now, with that being said, if Southeast Asia gets hit particularly hard in the next recession for any reason, war, China invades Taiwan, there's a whole bunch of things. But if it gets hit really hard, then I think the Australian market gets hit really hard in a double-barreled way. One is, people might need to liquidate their assets and get the hell out and to survive, because a lot of them just buy Australian real estate and just park their money there, don't even live in it. But then also you've got the whole Australian exporting raw materials to Southeast Asia that they produce their products. If they stop producing, then you have this situation where the Australian exports are going to suffer, and that's going to hurt the Australian economy domestically. So I'm not saying that the Australian real estate market is immune, but what I am saying is the 2008 crisis was, the 2008 non-crisis in Australian real estate market was, I would say, very well deserved and justified. I don't see it as a problem. Love the growth of the channel. Congratulations and many blessings. Would love to see an interview with Swan Bitcoin. Corey. Okay, I'll find out a little bit more about Corey. I haven't heard of him, but we'll check him out. What makes you think that silver and gold will not continue to be manipulated for the foreseeable future? What events have to happen to get a true valuation for these materials? What has to happen is enough people want to take physical possession. And that's going to be led by a crisis. But even in those situations, many jurisdictions will be like for example, right now you've got Venezuela and you've got Zimbabwe and Turkey and even, I think, in Argentina, all with massive, massive inflation. So between 20 and 200% among the four countries, right, per month. Crazy, crazy high inflation. These guys have the options of Bitcoin and precious metals. That's their easiest option. And if enough people start getting physical precious metals, then the system, the house of cards will come tumbling down and gold will get revalued. But basically it's going to take a tremendous crisis to achieve that. Is a crisis of that magnitude even possible? I mean, yes, it is, but there's also some other shortcuts to that, in that Bitcoin will, have its moment so much longer before precious metals, because it's, again, free to transport, free to store compared to precious metals, and Bitcoin can zap anywhere around the world to its most needed place. Gold and silver just cannot do that. It's extremely expensive. Like, I think right now in certain countries in Africa, they are paying a 200% premium for Bitcoin. But Bitcoin can get there. What's the premium they're paying on gold and silver? I mean, it's extremely expensive to send gold and silver there. So, they can't get their hands on gold and silver because it's priced out. So you have to understand these kinds of things. Gold and silver is, like, I bought lots of gold and silver kind of pre-2012. Once I discovered Bitcoin, I think I might have bought a handful of monster boxes here or there and stored around the world, like in Switzerland and Singapore and things like that. But gold and silver will always pale into comparison to Bitcoin, in my opinion. Once you go through the education, you really understand the Bitcoin thing, gold and silver does become pretty moot. I've never sold me my gold and silver. I still have it just in case I'm wrong. But it's just not going to be. It's that canary in the coal mine has been shot, murdered, and buried. And can it do good things? Absolutely. If there's a big enough crisis, it can. But at the same time, if gold doubles, I mean, Bitcoin goes up 50x, 100x. So why bother? Let's see. With the Cbdc looming in our futures, where is a safe haven for cash? See, you're going to need to live inside the system partially. So, like, again, I kind of use the example. If you've been to a communist country, like I went to Cuba, and everyone pretended to work for 40 hours, and everyone pretended to get paid, and the government pretended to pay them for 40 hours, and then they all had a side hustle, and then there was this black market. But you still needed the fake currency, the bogus. You still have to live. Like, you still got to pay your taxes, and you still got to pay all these things, like pay all these things to the government to survive. So you still need your CBDCs. You just also have your Bitcoin, and it's the currency of the black market. And if you want your extra ration of chocolate and sugar and luxuries of life, you use your Bitcoin. So of course I fear for humanity, Bitcoin, but this question is, well, how do I protect me from it? We fight central bank digital currencies for sure because of the control grid that it is. We fight that for our freedoms and for our fellow man. But as an actual bug out plan, as an actual thing, you still need CBDCs. So, if you're half in Bitcoin, half in cash, which is pretty much where I am at the moment, you're gold. Like, you've got nothing to worry about. So, great question though. But it's so strange. There's like 50 different questions that can be asked about all the ills of the world. What about the BRICS? De-dollarizing the US dollar. Like, what about? There's just hundreds and hundreds of them. The credit score, the social credit score question, the central bank, the CBDCs. All of these questions, they're all fantastic questions. And I feel so simplistic. I've thought about these all very, 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 very deeply. And I just stayed in one vertical. It's like, okay, China invades Taiwan. What does that look like? What are all the things that move? What are all the dominoes that fall? What are all the da-da-da-da-da-da? And then I spent months thinking in this vertical. And I can tell you, I just came up with the exact same solution for every single thing. Bitcoin might get a hit. It'll bounce back stronger, better, bigger, faster than anything else, and will rocket in value eventually as a result of those things, even though the first thing might be worse. But I still hold plenty of cash because I live in the real world, and I need to pay taxes, and I need to buy groceries, and I need to do all those things. And once you really see through it and really understand, it's like such a boringly simple portfolio. It's like have some Bitcoin, have some cash, and if you're really cash risk adverse and you just want to have some precious metals lying around, do that. It's so simple, but once you really deeply think through to the nth degree what happens in all of these single questions, the answer comes to you. It's like, oh, I'm protected. I get it. In all of these scenarios, I'm good. Because am I saying, might the cash that I have in banks, which I have plenty of, might I lose it? Might it get bail-in? Might it get chopped in half? Yes. But Bitcoin's going to skyrocket. Might we go through a long recession and all assets go down for several years, including Bitcoin? Possible. If so, I've got it sitting on a big chunk of cash, and I get to buy all those assets for pennies on the dollar. Cash flowing businesses, dividend paying stock, Bitcoin. I get to buy them all for pennies on the dollar in those scenarios. And I've got enough, I don't need to sell any of them because I've got enough cash to do it. So think through all of these things, and don't come from what do I do to not lose a penny? It's not a good mentality. It won't get you anywhere. Think of it from, is there something in my portfolio that will save me if this happens or if that happens? Because at the end of the day, let's go back to the Great Depression. Like 30% unemployment, just absolutely horrific times. Was the top 50% of people perfectly fine? Was the top 20% of people doing okay? Was the top 10% of people flourishing? All you got to do is be in the top 10, 20, 50%, like wherever you are. Like right now, if you're not in the top 70% of like income earners, so I understand, but if you've positioned your portfolio, then you can be in the top 20% because you're protected. You're not going to get wiped out because you have some Bitcoin, you have some cash, right? If you're in the top 1% of earners now, like I understand you want to stay there and maybe even climb the ranks a little bit. That's totally fine. So you understand all of the scenarios, understand all of the risks, and you use your portfolio to hedge all the situations so that you and your family are guaranteed to be taken care of, and maybe even you can jump up significantly by buying the dips or whatever. So, but if you think through all of these different challenges that you're having, all of these questions, I think a real good part of it comes from, how do I not lose a penny? How do I not? Good questions to ask, but very important to ask them in the context of your broader portfolio. And it's that is what protects you. And if you think it through really deeply, it's actually really, really simple. Have some Bitcoin, have some cash. And you're going to be protected in all the scenarios. and you have the opportunity. Like you're just I can't see a situation where one does not do very, very, very well. The only time you can mess it up is if you did not have big enough cash reserves, and you have to sell your Bitcoin at the lows in like a let's say we have a big crash, and you didn't have enough cash reserves, you burned through your cash, and now you're selling Bitcoin when you should be buying. That's how you can mess it up. But if you've got enough reserves and your skills, and if you don't have enough reserves in actual assets, your reserves have to be there in skill sets, so you're valuable to people. So you can always get a job, you can always contribute to society, you can always make money. And that can be in the form of a job, or it can be in forms of skill set. Like my skill set is such, I have absolutely no doubt that if there's this big gigantic crash and panic in the streets, I could go out and buy all kinds of amazing assets, no money down. Cash flowing real estate, cash flowing businesses. I could show up and buy these businesses, no money down, little money down, or if it does require money down, I could attract investors to fund me to buy incredible assets for pennies on the dollar. So I don't even need money, my skill set's that high. But then on the money side and my asset side, they're so high, I've got all these different funds in different buckets, and no matter what happens, I'm going to be perfectly fine. And that's where you got to get to just absolutely sleep like a baby at night for yourself. Now, I don't sleep like a baby because I worry about humanity, but I don't worry about me. Like I just don't need to, because my portfolio is built in such a way that it's fine. My skill set has been built up over many years that I'm going to be very valuable to a lot of people no matter what. And so that's the goal to get to. So I hope that helps. That was a long one. Okay. What are your thoughts on governments confiscating Bitcoin at some stage? Yeah, they think they're going to try. Like, who would have thought? Like right now, society is just, the mentality of society is horrific, and America, for example, should be the bastion of freedom, but are they? No, they're not. Like, do they even understand what the hell's going on? No. So, freedom is not living in the hearts and minds of Americans, unfortunately. So that gives us all kinds of problems. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? So, okay, yes, I remember. Back in the 1930s, when the spirit of freedom was so much more entrenched in the hearts, minds, and souls of Americans, they were able to ban gold and silver. It's like, come on. Like, Gandhi walked and picked up salt to prove the stupidity of taxing something that nature gives us. Now, something that nature gives us is banned by governments is idiotic. But it happened back then. Could they ban Bitcoin gold? Like, you got to understand, the social credit score, they're going to ban breathing. Like, they're going to ban having a pet because it farts and it hurts the environment. They're going to ban everything. It doesn't matter what they're going to ban. All you need to know is if you think they might ban it, that's what you need. That's why you go and get it, right? Because if they're going to ban, otherwise, you're just like, if you're the cattle being herded to the slaughterhouse, the farmers build the fences to funnel the cows into the... If the cows do sit around asking, well, where does the farmer want us to go? Oh, follow the fence. And he walks into the slaughterhouse. It's the things they ban that are the things that are going to help you. So are they going to ban it? I think so. From when I very first bought Bitcoin in 2012, as I was buying it, I'm like, they're going to ban this one day. And I bought it. Because it doesn't matter. This is my weapon to fight. It's like, I don't ask the farmer, if I'm a cow, I don't ask the farmer which direction he wants me to walk. It's not what you do. Likewise, when people are trying to destroy humanity and enslave you, you don't ask them, what am I allowed to do with my property? What am I allowed to do with my time? You do it, and you do it in a smart way so that you don't get caught. Like for example, I think taxes are immoral? Do I pay taxes? I pay taxes. Why do I do it? The risk-reward ratio is not there for me, and I know how to make lots of money, and I don't do it. But like the single most important weapon to fight the tyranny, and they haven't banned it yet, I pick up the damn weapon. I buy the damn Bitcoin. It's critically important. So hope that helps. Hey Max, any concern that Bitcoin was created and run by the cabal? No, zero. I get that one all the time. If they did, they screwed up because it's an open source. I know what it is, I know what it does, and I can investigate it. And if they created it and did it, then they screwed up royally because it's going to destroy them. Curious about the wisdom investing in precious metals through Kinesis Money Exchange. Thoughts? I don't know what Kinesis Money Exchange is, but what I highly recommend is if you're going to buy metal, just take physical custody of it, or if it's part of a Plan B plan, store it in places like Singapore, places like Switzerland, etc. Do you still subscribe to a big crash in all markets, giving everyone opportunity to buy in lower? Charles, the answer to that is yes, significantly less confident than 6-12 months ago. Could the 15,500 be the low for this, like the low? We're never going to see that again in Bitcoin price ever. Absolutely it could. So I'm a lot less confident of it. With regard, I think my gut says we're going to get more lows in the stock market. With regards to Bitcoin having more lows, I am more on the fence. So that's why it's like, so technically we are in an accumulation period of Bitcoin. I'm not accumulating because I already have a lot. I'm already heavily weighted Bitcoin. So I'm not accumulating. But if you don't have any, this is a great time to buy. So it's a nuanced answer. And last question, actually second last question, there's one in email. What is your view on the BTC market until the end of 23? Do you think a black swan event is possible? I've covered that, and yes, black swan events are always possible. So, yep. Now, I do, let me see. I'm going to change this here. Let me see if this works. Actually, and I had one final question on email here. I'll just read it to you. Is it a good time to buy investment property in Australia in this year, 2023? It's always a good time to buy real estate in Australia. Look, I kind of covered it before. I know a lot of people, people will do their analysis in a similar way that they will do analysis to like the American real estate market. And they'll look at, affordability and average income of Australians and whatever. What a lot of people do not understand, a lot of foreigners don't understand about the Australian real estate market is that there's so much foreign investment. It's kind of like a Vancouver situation. And, it is the playground, of the Asia Rim, right? And in that Asian area, you have got 2 billion people who have been lifted up out of poverty in the last 20 years. It's created an enormous amount of wealth, but they are corrupt societies. They don't value property rights, and people are like, I want to get some money outside of the countries. Where do I store it? And they just go and buy real estate in Vancouver, Australia, London. It's what they do, and it's a change. So look, I don't own any real estate in Australia. It would have been a wonderful investment had I bought some before I left or bought some after or whatever. But it's a nuanced answer, but I'm not in the camp that even though Australians can't afford Australian real estate, that creates a huge risk. But there are very, very good reasons for why the Australian real estate market has gone up and is probably likely to continue to go up. And then the enormous property taxes that those foreigners pay is what gives Australia the incredible lifestyle that it has. They have all kinds of welfare programs and all kinds of safety nets, which I don't like. I think those things corrupt the soul and actually hurt the recipients. I'm very Ayn Randish on that one. I think charity is very, very hard to do, and government-run welfare is an absolute disaster every single time it's tried. It traps people in poverty. So I don't like those programs, but it does create a very good standard of living in Australia. Very, very good one. By most metrics. I think it corrupts over time, but it's not good, but it has created a very good lifestyle there for most Australians, a very good safety net. And so, is it a good time to buy investment property in Australia? It's almost always a good time to buy real estate, investment property in Australia. However, you just got to understand the risks, and the risks are black swan events, wars, etc. If there's something that triggers foreigners to withdraw from the market en masse, the Australian market will go down big time and stay down. So there's just something that you need to understand that risk going in, but those are black swan events that are not necessarily likely. And so, you're under most of the time you're doing very, very well. If you can get into the Australian real estate market without hemorrhaging too much on the cash flow side, then you're doing pretty well. All right, guys, I hope you found that super helpful. I love answering your questions. It was super fun for me. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, please, if you're not a part of this channel. And I will speak to you soon. Take care.